Just for the recording, I'm taking Toji. My opponent is taking Mahoraga.
All right, cool. You can start.
Alright. I'm just gonna scan. Megami states that Toji has the capacity to instantly kill the Shikigami. Mahoraga is just one of the Shikigami, so Toji has the capacity to instantly kill Mahoraga. So yeah.
All right. So basically, what I'm gonna say to this argument is basically, it's just gonna be the Shinigami within his control, within his capacity. It just seems to be the case that that's more likely due to the fact he says my Shikigami are no match for him. Plus, I have my Shikigami. So basically, what I'm gonna ask you to justify is why Mahoraga would be inclusive when he's not tamed. So basically, what
Okay.
I'm saying is, sure, he has the ability to summon Mahoraga, but it's not going to be some sort of it's not going to be some sort of possessive thing, right? Uh, that's basically what my argument is.
Okay, that's cool. But like, I think he's gonna be part of the Shikigami because, well, in the first panel, I said, it states that his 10 Shikigami, and so it implies that Megami has 10 Shikigami, and we know 10 Shadows Technique 2 have 10 Shikigami as of the last scan, so it implies that all of the Shikigami in the 10 Shadows Technique, regardless if they're tamed or not, because we know that Megami had untamed Shikigami at that point of the statement, are his.
All right. So my issue with that is it just seems to be some sort of knowledge differentiation between the people, right? So for the first scan you sent, it just seems to be the case that it's some sort of knowledge claim from the narrative, or not some knowledge claim, so just some claim from some higher entity. While the second scan of Megami just seems to be some statement that's inclusive within his knowledge. So yes, I'm saying it could be the case that overall it's his Shikigami, but within Megami's knowledge, it seems to be the case that he's going to make this claim of what's only obtainable or what's only tamed within his perspective.
Okay, so just like why would it be the case that Megami is only referring to his knowledge of his tamed Shikigami?
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be the case because, well, when he says in some sort of possessive state, it's like he has some sort of full control or full ownership over it. But we know that's not the case with Mahoraga. So it just seems to be sort of some sort of issue with what we know is true of this character.
Right, sorry, how does it imply that these are only the Shikigami he has like full control over? Sorry, I just want to
Yeah,
understand that.
again, so when he says my,
My
it's in
bad, my
some sort
bad.
of semantical sense where he has full possessive control over this person. My implies some sort of full authority, some sort of full control over something, which we know he does not have full control over Mahoraga. He only has the ability to use Mahoraga, right? So if I have a gun, right, and I'm able to shoot it, um, or if I have a gun, it's not my gun, right? It's not fully my gun. I have the ability to use the gun to my advantage, but I don't have full possession over the gun. So basically, what
I
I'm saying,
mean,
he does have ownership. Like he technically has ownership, but he doesn't have full possession over it.
I'm kind of confused on the entailment of that because, like, say we can use many of examples where like, would you take, say, a mother saying my child or my baby, or a father saying my daughter? Those are they obviously don't have full, like, control over those people because, well, a mother can't control their child if their child is, say, like, stronger or something, or in a way that, like, they can fight back or something.
Well,
So I
that
don't
just seems
see
to be
why
this analogy to this case, because
why would it be this analogous?
the entities we are positing in this scenario seems to be fully controlled, fully obtained, fully just controlled by some sort of other person. Well, within the child, um, it doesn't seem to be the case that the child is able to be fully controlled by anyone at all. So that's why I use the gun analogy, because a gun is not some sort of like being that cannot be fully controlled. right? But with with the Shikigami, he has some sort of full controlment over the Shikigami. They have to do what he says when he tames them. But with the child, it just seems to be disanalogous in that case that the child, even when you can have ownership over the child, it just doesn't seem to have control. Even when you tell exactly what the child to do, like if you have perfect control, if you have perfect parenting skills.
Is it not like in question whether we are referring to the Shikigami has perfectly control or the Shikigami generally? I don't see why
No,
like
so
my
it just seems
example would be
it just seems to be the case you didn't understand what I'm saying. So basically,
okay, go on then.
what I'm saying is I'm debunking your analogy of the kid. I'm saying basically it just seems to be some sort of issue within the individuals of the analogy, right? Within within Megumi's case, when he has full control over these entities, when he has full control over the 10 shadows, it seems to be the case they have to follow. It's a necessary condition for these characters to follow, right? But within with the analogy you gave, like the parent, sure, it can be a sufficient condition for the child to follow through, but that does not make it necessary as such as Megami. That's why I said within the gun analogy, when I shoot the gun, it follows my control because it does not have some sort of sentience to disobey my control. So it's basically within physics, right? Physically, the gun is necessarily has to follow what I do, unless some sort of other external properties or external factors disobey it, such as a malfunction. But that's just external to what the gun should consistently do, right?
Okay. So what you're saying, okay, I didn't track that, my bad.
Okay, I'll just shorten it. Basically, it just seems to be the case that whenever he has a Shikigami under control, they have to do whatever he says. That's just
Okay.
necessary.
Yeah.
But within your analogy with the kid, it's not necessary for a kid to follow instructions. It's sufficient. Like it would be suffice. Like a kid following instruction would be something sufficient for them to do.
Okay. So like no, but like what I'm trying to say is that you would still call that child like the mother would still say that as my child, whether that child follows the instructions of the mother directly. And I'm saying that like with the Megami example, could Megami not just still call his Shikigami my Shikigami regardless of if they are under his control? I don't see why that
I
necessarily has
mean,
to be the case
yeah,
because
you can say
like
that,
I
but
understand the gun example too, but
yeah,
like that's what I'm trying to say.
you can say that, but like here again, my gun analogy just shuts down the interpretation, right? Because I can illegally buy a gun and I can say yes, this is my gun since I paid for it. But since since there seems to be some sort of other properties towards it, right? It just seems to be the case that what's it called? Okay, I'm just not gonna use that analogy again. It's just harder to explain. But basically, within the kid example, the reason you have full ownership over the kid is because one, you birth it, and two, it lives under your house. You have to provide everything to the kid. So it just seems to be some sort of external factors towards the actual ownership, just the name of ownership. While within Megami's thing, I just think he only has to tame him, right? Or not tame him. He just only has to like take control over these people, and then for them to qualify. So when he says my Shikigami, I think it's Shikigami that he has at disposal that he can fully use to his advantage, right? And I
Oh,
and honestly, even if I were to grant this, right, even if I were to grant Mahoraga being in his possession, I could just say Megami is just incorrect with this statement based off what Mahoraga has shown later on. So
I would
if
wouldn't
it's the case that Mahoraga is within his possession, right? And Megami, or if it's the case Mahoraga is not within his possession under my interpretation, the contradiction would just land to a probability raiser, right? So
Would it? I mean, like, what Mahoraga contradict the idea of
I think
Toji being weaker?
Mahoraga just has some sort of lower end relativity to Gojo. He's able to consistently keep pace with Gojo. He's able to block hits from Gojo. He's able to cut Gojo. He's able to do all these things.
Like, why does that contradict the idea of him by Toji?
You said what?
How does that contradict the idea of him being one shot by Toji?
Okay, so if it's the case, you can take hits from this sort of being that's on a higher realm than Toji, which I don't think you should
How
have
do
an
we know that
issue.
Gojo is on a higher realm of Toji?
Huh?
How do we know that Gojo is on a higher realm than this Toji?
Narrative statements, feats from their fights,
Right?
basically all the empirics, all of the things that we see. He's just on a higher realm. I can even show you the video. Look in chat. Look at here. He just like a weakened Gojo just seems to easily dodge this person, right? Just seems to easily feed.
I don't really like. I guess there's some type of like implication that this Toji wouldn't be the same strength as like wouldn't necessarily scale to the Toji I'm using, which would be Shibuya Toji.
I mean, can you quantify the strength difference?
I mean, I think if uh, I think the statement itself would give quantification to the probably, yeah.
I don't agree
Right.
to that because it just seems to be the case that he's just stronger in some capacity. It just doesn't even give a capacity into where he's stronger. So it could just be the case that he's stronger because he has more stamina. He's stronger because some sort of weapon difference. He's stronger because of blah blah blah. So I don't think such statement gives some sort of quantification on why or how he's stronger.
So you're saying that he needs some type of like quantification for us to take it to the case that he isn't. So wait. So you're saying
And
because there's no quantification of him being like weaker in any okay, fuck off. In like any relevant capacity, we can't take it to be the case that he was weaker in any relevant capacity.
hold on, let me just give me a second. I'm trying to. All right, you can repeat yourself.
Right. So you're saying that because because like we don't really have like I guess in this position we don't have a motivator towards the idea that he's like weaker, I guess in any like major capacity that would affect this like I guess statement. That we should take it to the case that he isn't like weaker in any major capacity.
No, I'm just saying, without some sort of larger quantifier, him being weaker wouldn't be as relevant as you think for such a like massive stat gap between him and Gojo.
All right, bro. I am going to concede one.
All right, cool, man. I got my Wingstop here. I am definitely gonna eat this. You could just save the wreck.
You know, I thought you ate like chitlins.
Huh? You said what?
I thought you ate like chitlins.
Oh my goodness, it was real tail dip, bro. Let it go. I don't eat chitlins, bro. It's disgusting.
Okay, but did you generally eat that plate?